There's a version of you that doesn't say a single word and still gets treated like the smartest person in the room. No begging for attention, no trying too hard, no over-explaining yourself to people who were never going to listen anyway. Just quiet, calculated moves that make people sit up a little straighter the second you walk in. Sound made up? It's not. And honestly, it's not even new. Almost 500 years ago, a guy named Machiavelli sat down in exile, broke, humiliated, and stripped of everything he'd worked for, and wrote the most brutally honest playbook on power and human nature that's ever been put on paper. And buried inside that book are 4 moves. 4 silent, almost invisible moves that can flip how people see you practically overnight. We're not talking about cheap tricks. We're not talking about manipulation for the sake of manipulation. We're talking about cold, hard truths about how respect actually gets built and how most people have been doing it completely backwards their entire lives. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why some people walk into a room and command it without saying a word, while other people can talk for an hour straight and still get talked over, ignored, or forgotten by the next day. Stick around, because move number 3 is the one that's really gonna hit different. That's the one almost nobody talks about, and it's probably the exact reason people have been walking all over you without you even clocking it. Let's get into it. Welcome back to The Hidden Mind, the channel where we dig into the psychology, the philosophy, and the cold hard truths most people are too scared to say out loud. If this is your first time pulling up, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now, because we drop videos just like this one that are going to change the way you see yourself, the way you read other people, and the way you move through this world. And hey, real quick, if you're already riding with this channel, go ahead and smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and let us know where in the world you're watching from. Share this video with somebody in your life who needs to hear this today. And if you really want to support what we're building here, there's a super thanks button right below this video. That little bit of support goes a long way in keeping this channel alive and keeps us cooking up content like this one for you. All right, let's get into it. Today we're talking about respect, not the fake kind. Not the kind where people clap for you at the office party and then talk about you the second you leave the room. We're talking about real respect, the kind where people take you seriously the moment you open your mouth, the kind where people think twice before they try you, the kind where you don't have to beg for a seat at the table because you already own the room without even trying. And we're pulling this straight from the mind of Niccolo Machiavelli, the original political strategist whose book, The Prince, got him branded as one of the most dangerous thinkers in human history. But strip away the reputation, strip away the centuries of people misquoting him, and what you're left with is one of the most accurate breakdowns of human psychology ever written by a human being. Machiavelli didn't care about being nice, he cared about what actually works. And today we're breaking down 4 silent moves straight out of his playbook that'll make people respect you almost instantly. No yelling required, no bragging required, no chasing anybody down for approval required. Let's get into move number 1, but first, let's talk about why most people never earn real respect in the first place. Body setup. Before we get into the moves themselves, you gotta understand one thing Machiavelli figured out that most people never do in their entire lives. Respect and likability are not the same thing. In fact, half the time, they're straight up opposites. Think about it. You ever notice how the person who's constantly trying to make everybody happy, constantly cracking jokes, constantly agreeing with whatever's being said in the room, that person rarely gets taken seriously? Meanwhile, the quiet one, the one who barely talks, the one who doesn't laugh at every joke and doesn't rush to fill every silence, that's the person everybody's low-key trying to impress. That's the person whose opinion actually carries weight when they finally do speak up. Machiavelli said it flat out in The Prince. If you can't be both loved and feared at the same time, it's safer to be feared. Now don't get it twisted. We are not saying go around being cold or scary to people in your life. That's not the move. And honestly, that's a lazy misreading of what he was actually saying. What Machiavelli's really talking about is control. Fear in his world isn't about violence or intimidation. It's about unpredictability. It's about people not being able to read you like an open book. It's about people knowing, deep down, that you're not somebody who's just going to roll over the second things get uncomfortable. Love, on the other hand, is unreliable. People's affection changes with the wind. It changes with their mood, their jealousy, their own insecurities. But respect that's built on the fact that you're not to be messed with, that sticks around. That's the foundation for everything we're about to break down today. See, most people spend their entire lives trying to be liked. They over-explain themselves in every conversation. They laugh a little too hard at jokes that honestly ain't even funny. They say yes when they mean no. They chase validation like it's oxygen they can't live without. And here's the brutal truth nobody wants to hear. The more you chase respect, the further it runs from you. Respect isn't something you can demand with your mouth. It's not something you can beg for or argue your way into. It's something you build in silence, through your presence, and through your actions when nobody's even asking you to prove yourself. And that, right there, is exactly what these 4 moves are about. So let's break down move number 1. Move 1, say less than you know. Here's something that's going to sound backwards at first, but stick with me on this one. The less you explain yourself, the more powerful you actually look. We live in a world where everybody's talking, everybody's got an opinion on everything, and everybody's rushing to fill every single gap of silence, like silence is some kind of enemy that needs to be destroyed immediately. But Machiavelli understood something that most modern people completely missed. He wrote that a wise ruler should never reveal his full intentions, because the second people know exactly what you're thinking, exactly what you're planning, and exactly how you're going to react, they've already got the upper hand on you. They can prepare for you. They can manipulate you. They can predict you like a rerun they've already watched 100 times. Think about the most respected people you know in real life. Not the loudest people. Not the ones who dominate every conversation with their life story. The actually respected ones. 9 times out of 10, they're not the ones running their mouth the whole time. They're the ones who sit back, listen, take everything in, and only speak when it actually matters. And when they do speak, people lean in, because they know it's not going to be filler. It's not going to be noise. It's going to carry weight. Here's the psychology behind why this works so well. And it's honestly kind of wild once you see it. Human beings are wired to associate scarcity with value. That's just basic economics applied to human behavior. If something's everywhere, it's cheap. If something's rare, it's valuable. Words work exactly the same way. If you're talking constantly, filling every silence, narrating every single thought that pops into your head, your words become background noise real quick. People tune you out the same way they tune out a commercial they've seen 100 times. But if you're somebody who chooses your words carefully, who doesn't say something unless it actually needs to be said, your words become currency. People start paying attention the second you open your mouth because they know you don't waste breath on nothing. Now let's talk about over-explaining specifically, because this is where most people, and I mean most people, are losing respect without even realizing it's happening. You ever notice how insecure people over-explain everything? They make a decision, and then they spend the next 10 minutes justifying it to anybody who will listen, even when nobody asked them to explain a single thing. They say no to something, and instead of just saying no, they give a whole speech about why they're saying no, like they're on trial and they gotta convince a jury. That's not confidence. That's the opposite of confidence. That's basically begging for permission and approval disguised as an explanation. Machiavelli's whole philosophy was built around the idea that information is power, and the second you give away too much information about your reasoning, your emotions, your next move, you've handed your power over to whoever's listening. Think about a poker player. The best players in the world don't announce what's in their hand. They don't explain their strategy mid-game. They play it close to the chest, they stay unreadable, And that unpredictability is exactly what makes them dangerous at the table. You need to start treating your words the same way, not because you're trying to be shady or manipulative, but because oversharing your every thought and motive makes you predictable. And predictable people don't command respect. They get walked over. Let's talk about how this actually plays out day to day. Because I know some of you are thinking, okay, that sounds nice in theory, but what does this actually look like in real life? Picture this. Somebody asks you why you made a certain decision at work. The average person launches into this whole long-winded explanation, justifying every little detail, practically apologizing for having an opinion in the first place. The person who commands respect, they give a short, clear answer, and they let it sit there. They don't chase it with 5 more sentences, trying to convince the other person they made the right call. They said what they said, and that's that. No cap. That shift alone, learning to just let your answer sit without chasing it with unnecessary justification, is one of the fastest ways to start commanding more respect in every room you walk into. Here's another layer to this that Machiavelli understood better than almost anybody else in history. Silence isn't just about withholding information, it's also about withholding your reactions. When something goes wrong, when somebody tries to provoke you, when somebody says something designed to get a rise out of you, the instinct for most people is to react immediately, to defend themselves, to explain themselves, to argue back right there on the spot. But the person who stays quiet, who takes a breath, who doesn't give the other person the reaction they were fishing for, that person automatically has the upper hand in that interaction. Because now, the other person doesn't know what you're thinking. They don't know if you're mad, if you're unbothered, if you're planning something, or if you just genuinely don't care enough to respond. That uncertainty right there is power, straight up. There's a concept that gets thrown around in psychology circles called the silent authority effect, and it's basically this. People assign more competence, more intelligence, and more authority to people who talk less but say more when they do talk. It's the reason why in a business meeting, the person who speaks the least but says the smartest thing at the end of the conversation is often remembered as the most impressive person in the room, even over people who talked for 20 straight minutes. It's the reason why in negotiations, the side that talks the least and lets the silence sit heavy in the room usually ends up with better terms, because the other side gets uncomfortable with the silence and starts filling it themselves, sometimes even negotiating against their own interests just to break the tension. Machiavelli talked extensively about the danger of a ruler being too transparent with his court. He said a prince should be like a fox, smart enough to recognize traps, but he should never let his court see every single move coming. Translate that into modern life and it becomes this: don't announce your plans before they're finished. Don't tell everybody in your life every single goal you're working toward, because half the people around you, whether they mean to or not, will either try to talk you out of it, steal the idea, or subtly root against you because your success makes them uncomfortable with their own choices. Keep your plans close until they're real. Let your results do the announcing for you. Now here's the part that's going to save you a lot of headaches in relationships, friendships, and even family dynamics. Over-explaining yourself to people who've already made up their mind about you is one of the most exhausting, energy-draining habits a person can have, and it earns you zero respect in return. If somebody's determined to misunderstand you, no amount of explaining is going to fix that. All it does is make you look desperate for their approval. The people who actually respect you don't need a play-by-play explanation of your every decision. And the people who do demand one, they were never going to respect you no matter how much you explained yourself. So here's the move. Start saying less. Start letting your answers sit without chasing them with extra justification. Start keeping your plans and your reasoning to yourself until they're finished, or until somebody's actually earned the right to hear them. This one shift, learning to say less than you actually know, is silent, it's subtle, and it is one of the fastest ways to make people start taking you seriously. Move 2. Master the unreadable face. All right, Let's move into move number 2, and this one's about something most people have never trained themselves to control in their entire life: their face. Your facial expressions, your body language, your reactions in the heat of the moment, these are broadcasting information about you constantly, whether you realize it or not. And here's the thing, most people are an open book. Somebody says something rude, and their face immediately shows hurt or anger. Somebody catches them off guard, and their face shows panic. Somebody insults them subtly, and their face shows that the shot landed. Every single one of those micro-reactions is information you're handing away for free. And Machiavelli understood that the people who rule, the people who lead, the people who command respect, they've all mastered the art of controlling what their face reveals. This isn't about being fake or emotionless like a robot. It's about not letting every single external event control your internal state and then broadcast that internal state on your face for the whole world to read. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the importance of appearances, about how a ruler needs to seem calm, composed, and in control at all times, even when things behind the scenes are absolute chaos. Because the second people see you panic, the second people see that they got under your skin, they realize they have power over you. And once somebody realizes they can get a reaction out of you, they're going to keep pulling that same lever over and over again, because it works. Let's talk about why this hits so hard psychologically. Humans are pack animals at our core, whether we like to admit it or not. We're constantly, subconsciously scanning the people around us for signs of weakness, signs of dominance, signs of who's really in control of a given situation. And facial expressions are one of the fastest, most primal signals we read off each other. It happens in milliseconds, way before your conscious brain even catches up. When somebody sees you stay completely composed after an insult, after bad news, after something that would normally rattle a person, something shifts in how they perceive you on an almost animal level. You go from being somebody who can be pushed around emotionally to somebody who's operating on a whole different frequency. That shift is instant, and it's honestly one of the most underrated forms of respect there is. Here's a real-world way to think about this. You ever been around somebody who just seems unbothered no matter what's happening around them? Chaos is breaking out, people are panicking, and this one person just stays cool, calm, and collected? That energy is magnetic. People naturally gravitate toward that kind of presence because in a world full of people who are constantly reactive, constantly on edge, constantly wearing their emotions on their sleeve, the person who stays composed feels like a safe harbor. And more than that, they feel like somebody who's in control, somebody who's got their stuff together, somebody worth respecting. Now, I want to be clear about something here, because this move gets misunderstood a lot. Mastering your facial expressions doesn't mean suppressing every emotion you feel until it explodes later. And it doesn't mean walking around like a statue with zero personality. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the gap between feeling something and immediately broadcasting it on your face for everyone to see. You can feel frustrated on the inside and still choose not to let your face give that away in a professional setting or in a moment where reacting would put you at a disadvantage. That gap, that split second where you choose your response instead of reacting on autopilot, that's where all the power lives. Machiavelli was obsessed with the idea of appearing virtuous, appearing calm, appearing trustworthy, even in moments where a ruler's internal reality was anything but calm. He understood that perception often matters just as much, if not more, than reality when it comes to how people treat you. If people perceive you as somebody who's easily rattled, easily offended, easily manipulated through your emotions, they're going to test that boundary constantly, whether consciously or not. But if people perceive you as somebody who's steady, no matter what gets thrown at you, they start treating you with a level of caution and respect that they don't extend to people who wear every emotion on their sleeve. Let's talk about a practical example of this in action. Picture somebody making a snarky comment about you in front of a group. The average reaction is either to get visibly flustered or to snap back defensively right away, both of which give the other person exactly what they were fishing for, some kind of reaction that proves they got to you. Now picture somebody who just lets that comment sit there for a second, maybe raises an eyebrow, maybe gives a small, unbothered smile, and then just moves the conversation along like nothing happened. That second reaction, or honestly, that lack of reaction, completely disarms the person who made the comment. It makes them look like they were trying too hard, and it makes you look like you're operating on a level they can't touch. That's the power of the unreadable face in real time. There's actually a term for this in psychology called affect labeling, and part of what it teaches us is that the moment you consciously choose to control your outward reaction instead of reacting on impulse, you're literally training your brain to have more emotional regulation over time. So this isn't just about looking cool in the moment. Practicing this consistently actually rewires how you process stress, insults, and conflict on a deeper level. You're not just performing calm, you're building actual calm, and that's a skill that pays off in every single area of your life, not just in how people respect you. Here's another angle Machiavelli would have appreciated. Bad news, setbacks, failures, these things are inevitable in life. Nobody escapes them. But how you carry yourself in the middle of a setback tells people everything they need to know about whether you're somebody worth respecting or somebody who falls apart the second things get hard. If your face immediately shows panic and desperation the moment something goes wrong, people lose confidence in you fast. But if you can take a hit and still look composed, still look like you've got a plan, people naturally assume you're capable of handling whatever comes next, even if internally you're scrambling just as much as anybody else would be. Composure under pressure is one of the most respected traits a human being can have, and it costs you absolutely nothing to practice it, except a little bit of self-discipline in the moment. So here's how you actually start training this. Next time somebody says something designed to get under your skin, practice the pause. Don't react immediately. Let a beat of silence pass while you decide how you actually want to respond, instead of letting your face respond for you automatically. Next time something goes wrong, practice keeping your expression neutral for just a few seconds before you let yourself process it internally, away from an audience. Over time, this becomes second nature, and people around you start to notice, even if they can't quite explain why, that you carry a different kind of energy than most people. That's move number 2, mastering the unreadable face. And trust me, once you start practicing this, you're going to notice people treating you differently almost immediately. Move 3, walk away before they expect you to. Okay, real talk. This is the move I told you about at the top of the video, the one that's going to hit different, because this is the one that flips the script on something almost everybody's been taught their whole life. We've all been raised to believe that sticking around, proving your loyalty, chasing people down, showing them over and over again that you're not going anywhere, that's how you earn respect and keep relationships intact. And Machiavelli would tell you, straight up, that belief is one of the most damaging lies floating around in modern culture. Here's what Machiavelli actually understood about human psychology that most people never figure out. We don't value what's guaranteed to us. We value what feels like it could be taken away. This is basic human nature, and it applies to everything: romantic relationships, friendships, business partnerships, even how your own family treats you. The second somebody knows, without a doubt, that you're never going anywhere no matter how they treat you, they stop putting in effort. Why would they? You've already told them, through your actions, that your presence isn't conditional on how they treat you. And when your presence isn't conditional on anything, it stops feeling valuable. Machiavelli talked about this in terms of alliances and loyalty among rulers. He said that a prince who's too eager, too desperate to maintain an alliance, ends up getting used and taken advantage of by the very people he's trying to keep close. The ones who command real respect, real loyalty, are the ones who make it clear, not through threats, not through drama, but just through their actions, that they've got other options, that they don't need this particular relationship or arrangement to survive. That energy of, "I'm good either way," is honestly one of the most powerful and underrated forms of leverage a human being can carry into any relationship. Let's break this down in real-life terms, because I know this can sound a little cold when we're talking about actual relationships and not just political alliances from 500 years ago. This is not about being distant or cold to people you actually care about. This is about breaking the habit of chasing people who aren't reciprocating effort. It's about breaking the habit of over-explaining yourself to somebody who keeps disrespecting you, hoping they'll finally understand and change if you just explain it one more time in one more way. It's about walking away from situations, conversations, and relationships the moment they stop being mutual, instead of sticking around out of fear that leaving means you're giving up too easily. Here's the psychological mechanism behind why this works so well, and it's honestly kind of fascinating once you understand it. There's a concept called loss aversion that's been studied extensively, and the short version is this: human beings feel the pain of losing something roughly twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining that same thing. That means the fear of losing you or losing access to you is a way stronger motivator for people than the comfort of knowing you'll always be there no matter what. When you're the person who's always available, always chasing, always the one putting in extra effort to keep things together, you never trigger that loss aversion response in the other person, because there's no perceived risk of losing you. But the second you start walking away from situations that don't serve you, the second people realize your patience and your presence actually have limits, that loss aversion kicks in hard, and people start valuing you in a completely different way. Now here's where this connects directly back to respect. Think about the people in your life who you respect the most. I'm willing to bet a good chunk of them are people who've shown you at some point that they've got boundaries, that they won't just tolerate anything indefinitely, that they're capable of walking away if a situation isn't right for them. Compare that to people who tolerate everything, who never push back, who stay in situations no matter how they're treated. Be honest with yourself. Does that second type of person command your respect the same way? Probably not, and it's not because you're a bad person for feeling that way. It's just baked into human psychology. We respect boundaries. We respect people who value themselves enough to walk away from things that don't serve them. Machiavelli also talked about something that ties directly into this: the danger of appearing needy or desperate as a leader. He said that rulers who constantly sought approval and validation from their court ended up weak, easily manipulated, and disrespected because everybody around them could sense the desperation and exploit it. The same exact principle applies to regular life. The friend who constantly needs reassurance, constantly needs to be included, constantly chases validation from the group, tends to get respected less than the friend who's comfortable doing their own thing, who doesn't need constant inclusion to feel secure. It's not that the needy friend is a worse person, it's that neediness, on a subconscious level, signals low value, and walking away signals the opposite. Let's get practical about how you actually apply this move number 3 in real life, because this is the one people ask about the most. It starts with recognizing the situations where you're chasing instead of receiving. Are you the one always initiating contact with a friend who barely responds? Are you the one always over-explaining, always trying to fix a conflict with somebody who never meets you halfway? Are you the one staying quiet about your own needs because you're scared that speaking up might push somebody away? All of those patterns are the opposite of what we're talking about here. The move isn't to become cold or to cut everybody off dramatically the second things get slightly difficult. The move is to stop over-investing in situations that aren't being reciprocated and to genuinely, internally, be willing to walk away if something isn't right, instead of just threatening to walk away as a manipulation tactic, because people can smell the difference between real detachment and fake detachment from a mile away. There's actually something really freeing about this once you internalize it. And it's not even just about how other people perceive you. When you stop chasing, when you stop needing every single relationship or situation to work out at all costs, you free up an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy that you were previously spending on people and situations that weren't giving anything back. That energy gets redirected into your own goals, your own growth, your own self-respect. And ironically, that's exactly the energy that makes you more attractive and more respected to the people who are actually worth having in your life in the first place. It's not about manipulation. It's about no longer being willing to abandon yourself just to keep somebody else comfortable. Machiavelli understood something that's honestly kind of timeless about human nature. We chase what runs, and we take for granted what stays, no matter what. It's not always fair, and it's definitely not always kind. But it's true, and pretending it's not true doesn't change how people actually behave. The moment you stop being the person who's always available, no matter how you're treated, the moment you become somebody who's genuinely willing to walk away from situations that don't serve you, people start treating you with a level of respect they simply don't extend to people who never set that boundary. That's move number 3, walk away before they expect you to, and honestly, out of all 4 moves in this video, this might be the one that changes your life the fastest once you actually start living it out. Move 4. Let your results do the talking. Alright, let's get into the 4th and final move. And this one ties everything else together in a way that's going to make the whole video click into place. Move number 4 is this. Stop announcing your worth and start letting your actual results speak for themselves. This one sounds simple on the surface, but I promise you, almost nobody actually lives by this. And that's exactly why it's such a powerful, respect-commanding move once you start practicing it. Here's the pattern you see everywhere in modern life, especially with how social media has trained all of us to constantly perform and announce everything we're doing. Somebody starts a new project, and instead of just working on it quietly, they announce it to everybody they know before they've made any real progress. Somebody sets a new goal, and instead of just pursuing it, they make a big public statement about how committed they are, almost like they're trying to convince themselves as much as everybody else. Somebody achieves something small, and instead of letting it speak for itself, they turn it into a whole production, constantly seeking validation and praise for every little step along the way. Machiavelli would look at all of that and immediately clock it for what it actually is: weakness disguised as confidence. Here's why announcing your plans and accomplishments before they're fully realized actually costs you respect instead of earning it. When you talk about what you're going to do before you've done it, you're essentially asking people to give you credit in advance. Credit you haven't actually earned yet. And here's the thing about human psychology. People are naturally skeptical of promises and naturally impressed by proof. Talk is genuinely cheap, and deep down, everybody knows it. Even the people nodding along and saying, "That's amazing," when you tell them about your big plans. There's a part of their brain that's reserving judgment until they actually see results. And when those results never materialize, or take way longer than you announced, your credibility takes a hit, even if nobody says it to your face. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the difference between how a ruler wants to appear and how a ruler actually needs to operate behind the scenes. He said that people judge by what they see, by outcomes, by results, way more than they judge by intentions or promises. A ruler could have the best intentions in the world, but if the results weren't there, the people didn't care about the intentions at all. Translate that into your own life, and it means this: people are going to judge you and respect you based on what you actually deliver, not based on how passionately you talked about delivering it. And honestly, once this clicks for you, it's kind of liberating, because it means you don't have to convince anybody of anything with your words anymore. You just have to focus on the actual work and let that work speak on your behalf. Let's talk about the psychology of quiet competence for a second, because this is a real, studied phenomenon, not just a vibe. There's something called the modesty effect in social psychology, and what it shows is that people who downplay their accomplishments or who simply don't announce them at all and let other people discover their competence organically tend to be perceived as more genuinely skilled and more trustworthy than people who constantly self-promote. It sounds almost backwards, right? You'd think the person constantly reminding everybody how good they are would be perceived as more competent, but it's actually the opposite. Constant self-promotion triggers suspicion in people. It makes them wonder what you're compensating for, what insecurity is driving you to need that much external validation. But when somebody discovers your competence on their own, through your actual results, that respect feels earned and real in a way that self-announced accomplishments never quite achieve. Here's a practical way to think about this. Picture two co-workers. One of them talks constantly about how hard they're working, how many hours they're putting in, how big their next project is going to be. The other one just quietly does the work, delivers results consistently, and doesn't make a big deal out of any of it. Over time, who do you think earns more genuine respect from the team? It's almost always the second person, even though the first person is working just as hard, sometimes even harder. Why? Because the second person's results are speaking a language that doesn't need translation or explanation. Their work is the proof, and proof is way more convincing than any amount of talking could ever be. Now let's connect this back to everything else we've talked about in this video, because these 4 moves aren't separate, isolated tactics. They're actually 4 pieces of the exact same philosophy, and Machiavelli understood this whole thing as one connected system, not 4 random tips. Saying less than you know, keeping your face unreadable, walking away instead of chasing, and letting your results speak instead of your mouth. All 4 of these moves are built on the exact same foundation: control. Specifically, control over what you reveal to the outside world, and control over your own need for external validation. Every single person who's ever earned deep, genuine respect from the people around them has mastered some version of this exact combination. They don't over-explain. They don't wear every emotion on their face for the world to read. They don't chase people or situations that don't reciprocate effort, and they let their actual work and their actual actions build their reputation, instead of relying on their words to do that job for them. Here's something important to understand before we wrap this up, and it's something Machiavelli himself would probably want you to walk away with. None of these 4 moves are about becoming cold, manipulative, or disconnected from the people in your life who actually matter to you. That's a shallow, surface-level reading of what we've talked about today. These moves are about self-control, self-respect, and refusing to give away your power for free just because society trained you to overshare, overreact, overchase, and over-explain your entire existence to anybody who asks. The people who respect you the most in your life are going to respect you even more once you start operating this way. And the people who only respected you because you were easy to read, easy to predict, and easy to walk over, well, you were never really getting genuine respect from them in the first place. You were just getting compliance disguised as respect, and there's a massive difference between the two. Synthesis. So let's bring this all together real quick before we wrap up today's video. Machiavelli's whole body of work gets reduced, way too often, to this cartoonish idea of cold, ruthless manipulation. And honestly, that take completely misses what he was actually trying to teach. At its core, what Machiavelli was really writing about was self-mastery. He was writing about the danger of being an open book in a world full of people who are constantly reading you, testing you, and looking for ways to use your own emotions, your own need for approval, and your own predictability against you. The 4 moves we broke down today, saying less than you know, mastering your unreadable face, walking away before they expect you to, and letting your results do the talking, these aren't about becoming somebody cold or fake. They're about becoming somebody who's finally in control of their own image, their own energy, and their own respect, instead of handing that control over to everybody else around you for free. Real respect, the kind that actually lasts, the kind that people can't take away from you with a single insult or a bad day. That kind of respect gets built in silence. It gets built through discipline, through self-control, and through the quiet confidence of somebody who doesn't need to convince anybody of anything, because their presence and their results are already doing all the talking that needs to be done. That's the entire philosophy behind everything Machiavelli wrote, once you strip away the reputation and the myths. And honestly, that's a lesson that's just as relevant today as it was 500 years ago. Maybe even more relevant, considering how much pressure we're all under now to overshare, to perform, and to constantly seek validation online. So here's your homework from this video. Pick one of these 4 moves, just one, and start practicing it this week. Maybe it's holding your tongue in a conversation where you'd normally over-explain yourself. Maybe it's keeping your face composed the next time somebody tries to get a rise out of you. Maybe it's finally walking away from a situation that's been draining you for way too long. Or maybe it's just quietly working on something instead of announcing it to everybody before you've even started. Whichever one you pick, give it a real shot and pay attention to how differently people start treating you. You're going to be surprised how fast this stuff works once you actually put it into practice instead of just watching a video about it and moving on with your day. Alright, that's going to do it for today's video here on The Hidden Mind. If you made it this far, first off, thank you, genuinely, for sticking with us through this whole breakdown. That means a lot. Now real quick before you head out, if this video actually gave you something to think about, do me a favor and hit that like button. It seriously helps this channel grow more than you'd think. Drop a comment down below and tell me which one of these 4 moves hit you the hardest, or which one you're going to start practicing first. I read every single comment and I want to hear from you. If you know somebody in your life who needs to hear this, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even yourself on a hard day, go ahead and share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need right now. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're dropping more videos just like this one every single week, breaking down psychology, philosophy, and the hidden mechanics of human behavior that most people never take the time to learn. And lastly, if you want to go the extra mile and support this channel directly, there's a super thanks button right below this video. Every bit of support helps us keep this thing running and keeps this content coming to you completely free. Remember what we talked about today. Real respect isn't loud. It's not desperate. It's not chasing, and it's not over-explaining. Real respect is quiet. It's controlled. And it's built one silent move at a time. Go out there, put these 4 moves into practice, and watch how differently the world starts treating you. This has been The Hidden Mind. I'll see you in the next one.